Today's the day. I had said that I was going to draw a line in the sand and that there was going to be some changes. Well, the line has been drawn, and I'm excited for you to come on this journey with me, because today in this episode, we are actually going to dig into true prosperity, and it might surprise you. It might be different than what you expected. So I'll see you on the other side, my friend. Welcome, my friend. Guess what? This episode today is the very first episode of the newly branded Her Prosperous Journey podcast. I'm super excited because this has kind of been in the making. If you've been listening to my podcast at all, or if you've gone back and listened to my old episodes, this has sort of been coming, but I kind of had to get things solidified and figure out, just exactly how I wanted to present it. And so today is the day. I've changed. If you're seeing this, you've seen my cover art has changed. My description, everything has changed. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because, you know what? I love the Lord. I love the Lord with my whole heart. And for me to just talk about money from a worldly perspective, it just felt yucky to me. It just did not feel good. I couldn't seem to align with, just teaching people how to earn money, or just, walking with them on that path, because to me, there's so much more to wealth and being prosperous than just money. And so I've been really, digging in. And the one thing that I've learned through this whole journey is that, God grows us through adversity and trials, right? Because, finances can actually be a sign of his blessings. However, there's a few things that go with that. So typically the idea of prosperity is usually tied to, financial stability or living a luxurious, fancy lifestyle. However, when we look at prosperity through a biblical perspective, and especially through the wisdom of Solomon, we see that it goes far beyond that. And that's why I'm so passionate about this new direction that I'm kind of going in, is because, some people are not going to resonate with this particular podcast anymore, because I can't hide my faith in the name of business. I have to, they're one and the same. They have to go together, because I believe that God gives us the power to get wealth. So if I'm not talking about that to people, then to me, I feel like I'm doing you a disservice. And so I want to dig into a little bit about what the Bible says prosperity is. And as we dig into it, we're going to uncover some things that you may have never heard before. And if you hang on till the end, I believe with everything in me that you will be blessed. And if you're not a believer, I think you still will be blessed, because I think this stuff can still apply. It's just that I have to, I have to be aligned with God's will and purpose for me. And I have known for a long time that I am more about impact than I am about income. And sometimes that can get in my way. Sometimes I can think that money is not good, or that I shouldn't have money if I want to be a follower of Jesus. But that's not true either. So we have to be so careful, because there's so many lies and things that surround the whole world of money and finance and business. And there's so many things. And so what I really want to do on this podcast as a whole, like the whole Her Prosperous Journey podcast, is I really want to uncover some of the myths. I want to, encourage you and inspire you to take the action, because these are everything that I'm going to be talking to you about is stuff that I have learned and gone through in my own journey to prosperity, because that's something we chase often. Like, how often do you meet people or hear of people that spend their whole life seeking money, chasing money and material possessions, only to find out that they're super empty, their lives are not rewarding, not fulfilling, and they actually even feel quite lost? I'm sure if you have not been in that position, I'm sure you know people that probably are pretty close to you that have been in that situation. And so that's what I want more for you. I want your life. I want you to, yes. Do I want you to have money? Yes. Do I want you to make an impact with that money? Yes. Do I want you to have more time with your family? Absolutely. Do I want you to make memories and have amazing adventures? Absolutely. But I also want you to understand that wealth without a purpose is like, a desert in the, like water that doesn't quench your thirst. It's there, but it's not fulfilling. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so that's why it's really important for us to kind of dig into this stuff, right? So prosperity is actually rooted in justice and wisdom. And it's formed from a deep relationship with God where financial growth follows. So if we, in the Bible, it tells us that when we seek first his righteousness, all these things will be added onto us. And that is such a beautiful thought because, God is the source of all. Everything else is a resource. And so for me, that's my truth, right? That is my truth, is that when we seek him and we seek his ways and we follow his ways, he may very well provide financial blessings. And so, that's why that God teaches that true wealth does not actually come from earning the most money, but instead following divine principles. So when the plan of prosperity becomes, when we follow these divine principles, that plan of prosperity, it becomes alive. It grows our internal value. Does that make sense? So instead of us just being tied to our value being placed on how much money we make, I believe that our value, because we are all, we are daughters and sons and daughters of Jesus. We were created in the image of God. That means we have already, just by the sheer existence and our acceptance of Jesus, we have an extremely high internal value. But many of us don't understand that. Many of us don't know that. And so then we look to other things to give us value, such as our home, our cars, our status, our bank account, right? All of these things to give us the status and give us that feeling of being valuable. But what if being valuable or having value was more about what we choose to do with our resources, how we choose to steward them, how we choose to show up and transform the lives of others? That's where I like to go, is because Solomon in the Bible, he invites us to see wealth not as an end, but as a tool to fulfill our divine purpose. And that wealth without wisdom is a burden. Did you catch that? Wealth without wisdom is a burden. How many times have you seen someone, become so stressed and so anxious by needing for the need to protect their stuff or their home or whatever, their money, right? It becomes so all consuming to them that their life just doesn't really radiate out anything else. And I think that it doesn't have to be like that, because God's way is easy. His burden is light. And so when he brings riches, they're not going to come with any of the burden that would come with it without God, right? So when we think about true prosperity, it is actually cultivated in wise hearts and sound minds. I heard this one time because I've struggled, actually, in the past, I have struggled with the idea of being, wealthy and what that would do to my relationship with God. But what I'm learning is that, or I heard someone say this to me not long ago, that who we are before we have money will be amplified after we have lots of money. So if we're kind and generous and compassionate before we get wealthy, before we get more money, because wealth is more than just money, but when we have lots of money and we are that person before, that's going to be multiplied and amplified with the money that we have. But if we're stingy and grumpy and anxious and greedy and all of those things before we actually have a lot of money, that too will be amplified when we get money. So that means that we need to make sure that we are building our character as we're building our wealth. So let's redefine wealth for a minute. According to the Bible, justice, wisdom, and purpose are treasures of wealth that cannot be corrupted by life circumstances. Now, that's not a scripture that I pulled from the Bible, but that's just, principles and stuff that come from the Bible. So when we give genuine value to our life and our work, with the intention of impact and transformation, all of a sudden now that puts us into a totally different mindset around money and about business and about work and all of these things. So money alone can easily lose its value when it is not accompanied by purpose. And I'm sure you've seen this. I'm sure you've seen people that have, they've worked hard. They've gotten everything they want. They've got the fancy car. They got the house they wanted. They got, the trips and the clothes and all the things. And they're really, really not happy, right? They're really, really not happy. And then they don't know what else they want. Like what else? Once you get, I heard, I think his name is Myron Goldman, something like that. I heard him talking about how, where was I going to go with that? Darn it. What was I was thinking about his name. Oh man, where was I going with that? Anyway, I'm sorry about that. I forgot. I lost my train of thought. So God's plan for us is that we seek wealth that stands the test of time. We don't want to be, that's what I was going to say. He says that there is a certain number. There's a certain number, like amount of money that people get to. And I can't remember what that number was, but once you cross over that number of money, you've been able to buy everything you want to buy. You've been able to do everything you have to do. And now any money that comes after that has really no value. And it doesn't bring any more joy, any more peace, anything. It doesn't bring any more happiness. But yet people keep striving and striving and striving for more because they don't know that it's not the actual dollar amount that causes us to be rewarded and fulfilled. I thought that was pretty cool because I'm like, so many people are like, oh, I want to be a billionaire and I want to be whatever. But what if we don't even need that much? I mean, I'm not saying you can't have that much. You can do whatever you want, but like there is a peace that comes from not having to strive, not having to grind, not having to feel like we have to do everything all by ourselves, make all the money by ourselves, right? There's a real peace that comes from that. So true wealth is actually not only just for our benefit. According to Solomon's wisdom in the Bible, it is also to be shared and applied for or to the benefit of others. So when we allow that thought to kind of drop in and sink into our hearts and our mind, guess what? The world opens up, our focus expands, and our whole life, our whole existence becomes richer and more, more amazing. And we then contribute to the transformation of those around us, which is really, really quite cool, actually. So wealth that comes from God does not rely on market shares or economic certainty, but instead on alignment with divine statutes. And that to me is a beautiful thought because we don't have to we do the actions. We do have to do the actions. We do have to take the action to make money. However, when we align with God and we do business with God, we all of a sudden can put a whole bunch of the stress and the heavy burden of earning that money. We can actually put that on God and trust that He's got it. He's got the end figured out before the beginning even. So when we put money in the right place, like, you've heard, the love of money is the root of all evil. That is actually not true. It's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money. The love of money. So when we put money in a position that's higher in our lives, of higher priority in our lives than God, now we run into problems. But the money itself, the actual coins and bills and things, is not the problem. It's what priority we put on it in our life. If it starts to dominate us, right? If it starts to dominate, like money starts to dominate our thoughts and our actions, we have a problem. And we need to figure out how to get back into a right relationship with God. But we do not have to be poor in order to be spiritual. We don't. There's nothing biblical that says we have to be poor in order to be spiritual. We have to be humble and we have to surrender to the Lord, and the Bible calls us to be meek, but that does not mean the same thing as poverty. That does not mean, it just means that we know that we are less than God and that we put Him ahead of our own wants and wishes and desires, and we ask Him to help us make decisions, right? There's many examples in the Bible, just a couple, for example, are Abraham, Solomon, Job. These guys all had lots and lots of money, and yet they remained in a right relationship with the Lord. Now, I'm not saying they're perfect. Don't get me wrong. They still made some mistakes, as we all do. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But it just goes to show us that there's a lot of abundance for God's people in the Bible. There's a lot of abundance. Now, we have to decide, are we letting money define us, or are we defining our purpose for money? Because as I mentioned, money is a tool. And so therefore, we need to direct it as to where it's going and how we're going to use it and how we're going to steward it. So, our faith should not be tied to how much money we have. Our faith should actually be unshakable no matter what. And then we can build wealth that is designed to be used for good, right? So is it important to have financial education? According to the Bible, it is very important. We need to learn to not only how to make money, but also how to manage it wisely, how to be good stewards of the money that God entrusts us with. When we lack control of our finances, we are vulnerable. We are dependent on the opinions of others. That's a scary thought, right? When we do not control our own finances. So in order for us to control our finances, we have to have financial education. And we have to learn things about money. And so that's, these are all things that I want us to learn together on this podcast, because as I'm learning, I want to share it with you, because that's part of the impact that I want to make, right? I'm called to make an impact, and that impact is going to help you make the impact that you are called to make. That's my whole plan, right? So when we think about financial blessings, the financial blessings that God actually has for us come from a place of discipline and preparation. So that means that, we have to train our mind. We have to train our mind to think the thoughts, and we have to train our hands to do the work in order to get financial independence. So the next thing that we have to think about is we have to think about an entrepreneurial mindset. This allows us to have to find solutions to problems that can impact other people. It's about using our gifts and talents to create something meaningful for ourselves and for those around us, right? And if we think about our prosperity being tied to a creative way to solve problems rather than a certain source of income, or like that perfect job or whatever, like when we get into that place of knowing where our prosperity actually comes from, there's a big piece. And this is something I've been working through with the Lord for the last week. Like, we've had some serious financial things happen to us in our lives. And as I work through these things, and as I have in the past, and still working through, just understanding things and understanding why things happened. And it's really important. And it has become such a mark of freedom for me, is to not be so tied to the way the world looks at prosperity. Now that I have a new identity, which is my identity in Christ. And I love that the fact that I have a new perspective about prosperity as well. And that is freedom, man. That is absolute freedom. So the Bible shows us that God blesses the work of our hands. So being an entrepreneur is actually a walk of faith. Isn't that a cool thought? And it is, because we have to step out. Do you know the story about the Israelites being chased by the army? And they came up to the Red Sea. And until they put their foot in the sea, it was only then that the waters actually parted and they could cross on dry land. But before that, so it looked as if it was hopeless for them, but they had to move forward in faith. They had to put their foot in, which is us too. So for me, when I think about starting a business, I had to put my foot in. I had to take that leap of faith first before I see God work through me and bring the financial blessings so that I can make the impact and all of those things. So it takes persistence and diligent work to become financially independent. This is not something that we can just go, yeah, like I believe it and it's going to happen. No, we still have to do the work. And that's the cool thing, is that God will tell us what work we need to do. God will show us the way to be profitable, or prosperous. and then he gives us the means to do so. He tells us what to do. He gives us the strength, and he helps us walk through it. But we still got to walk through it. We still got to do the work. So when we have an entrepreneurial mindset, we see open doors where other people would see closed doors. That means we can overcome obstacles and adversities, and each one of those can be opportunities for growth, which I think is absolutely amazing, because being a business owner is, to me, one of the biggest personal growth journeys that I have ever been on, because we have to look at ourselves. We have to look at, why things are working the way they are, why things aren't working when they aren't, why we, hit the wall when we hit the wall, like all of these things. And it takes courage, it takes diligence, it takes persistence, and it takes creativity to move beyond the obstacles that are there. So I really pray, my friend, that this podcast was, maybe a little bit different, only because I had some thoughts that I wanted to get out about prosperity and what it actually means from a biblical perspective. Because that's the direction that I'm going with this podcast now, is I really truly want to keep this in alignment with God and God's will for my life and God's will for your life. And so, my friend, I pray that if this blesses you, if this is something that has inspired you, then would you just leave a review on Apple Podcasts, or go on over to YouTube, because this podcast will be on YouTube as well, at Her Prosperous Journey. And I will have that in the show notes as well, the link to the YouTube channel. And because I would love to hear if this is blessing you, if this is helping you, like whatever, I would love to hear that stuff. And so anyway, have a fantastic day, my friend, and I will see you next week on Her Prosperous Journey. Take care, and God bless. How much longer can you afford to wait before taking control of your time and finances? What would life look like with a passive income from an online business that you could build from anywhere? If you had the support and the resources to succeed, what kind of impact could you make for yourself and your family? On this podcast, you will find simple solutions to help you start and grow your own online business that will pay you daily, even when you are enjoying adventures with your loved ones. My mission is to equip you to be wealthy in both time and money, with digital marketing skills, tips to overcome adversity, and steps to living out your purpose. If you are ready to say yes to a more rewarding and fulfilling life where you are making a bigger impact and transforming people's lives, then you're going to love this podcast. Hey, my name is Melanie. I'm a wife, a mother, and a blessed believer. I tried over the years many different side hustles to try and make a passive income and to live this life of freedom that everybody talks about. But what I finally realized is that I needed a step-by-step plan to keep me focused and consistent. I needed to link arms with others who were doing what I wanted to do. And now I'm excited to get to share with you what I'm learning. If you are ready to finally find freedom and own your own online business that helps you to never miss another family fun adventure and to make an impact while sitting on the beach, then this podcast is for you. So strap on your hiking boots and let's climb this mountain together.